morning, Nigeria. A new day has begun, and with it come new developments, stories, and conversations that matter. Welcome to Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, where insight meets discussion. I'm Oluwayemi Adelako, and I'm thrilled to have you with us this morning.
And I'm Anulu. So whether you're starting your day at home or on your commute or at your desk, we're here to give you the full picture of the news, the context, the analysis behind the headlines.
Definitely. We kick off today with Daybreak Gist. The political scene is eating up as the Senate approves a transmission with a manual backup in the Electoral Act. What are the implications of this decision? We unpack the details and what it can mean moving forward.
Right after that, we'll bring you the Daybreak news, highlighting key national and international developments that you need to know this morning. Then we'll turn to our newspaper review and analysis with Victor Hakelane, political scientist and public affairs analyst, and we explore the main stories, their angles, and the broader implications for Nigerians.
Later in our big story, we take a closer look at Aso Rock and the national grid. What does the recent power disconnection signal for citizens and policy? Joining us is Ignatius Ibosaleme, public affairs analyst, to provide expert insight on the issue.
We'll also track the buzz on social media in Trend Watch, highlighting the conversations and trend Nigerians are talking about this morning.
Informed, insightful, relevant. That's how we start your day.
And just so you know, you're watching Daybreak Live on Dominion Television.
Let's get into it. Good morning.
Good morning to you this morning.
Yeah, good morning this morning.
Yes, this morning.
Okay, so a lot happened yesterday. If you check, the newspaper outlets, videos upon videos, chants as well. I saw quite a number of that online yesterday because the Senate okays e-transmission of election result with manual backup, and then it has caused a lot of reactions. Let's not forget that protests started on this particular matter. I think yesterday was day 4, and I would love to start from that protest itself because the report we heard and the videos we saw is that it rained tear gas yesterday on the protesters, and then people had to scamper for safety. And then I think I saw a particular correspondent for a particular TV, he was breathing heavily, trying to catch his breath because of that tear gas. And then I saw the likes of Showore, Prophet Helbubas, Simon Lalong complain bitterly that, this particular tear gas is different from the one that they are used to, because these people, they join protests and me, not every single time, but most times. So he said, this particular tear gas is like a poisonous one, and then it gives that peppering sensation on your skin, and then it's very terrible. And then he also mentioned that El-Rufai at the time, he granted an interview recently, and he said some poisonous gas were brought to Nigeria. He said it should be looked into. But away from that now, the Senate, there was a little bit of issue yesterday at the House. As a matter of fact, the minority leaders, they staged a walkout. They walked out of the hall because they were angry. And then I think about 55% said yes, while about 15 lawmakers said no, we are not going to accept this. So it's really sad that at the end of the day, they have agreed to told this part to see that, okay, we are not saying e-transmission should not fly, but then let's have manual backup. And I read another headline yesterday where Telecos released a statement to say that, we never said we cannot undo, or there will be no, what's it called now? There will be no network. Yeah. He said about 95%, they can guarantee 95%, that in these areas there's going to be network to transmit results. So we really cannot understand what the Senate and of course the House of Rep, is happening on to say that, okay, let's just make sure that, at the end of the day, if e-transmission will not work, we can then back it up with manual. But Nigerians are not having it. As a matter of fact, the people that, scamper for safety yesterday, they are promised sincerely that the protest will continue until Senate, decide to pass just electronic transmission. But a lot of persons are now trying to compare, our electoral system with countries like United States of America, talk about India and these people. They even mentioned that India at the time, they were doing a combination of electronic transmission and manual transmission, and there are so much, compare the population to Nigeria. But it's really sad that at this point in time, this might deter a lot of persons from coming out to vote at the end of the day. But just like I would say, it doesn't matter what is going on, you cannot sit at home and then grumble later to say that, okay, I did not vote for this person. At the end of the day, Nigerians are supposed to fulfill their civic responsibility. It is up to the Senate and, of course, the House of Representatives, because history will definitely write about them. If at the end of the day, this is what we agree upon, or this is what they decide to pass, if they pass the proviso that allows for both electronic transmission and the manual transmission.
Well, I think I'll jump on the bandwagon to say that electronic transmission represents progress. But democracy thrives not only on innovation, but on trust. So the broader challenge now for Nigeria is ensuring that backup systems really strengthen elections rather than weaken the system. So there's a conversation of not even about innovation, but about trust in the political arena, particularly during elections. There's been conversations we've heard before of election rigging, vote buying, vote snatching, ballot snatching, and a lot of that malpractice on all of the sorts you can talk about during elections in Nigeria. So that has really waned the trust Nigerians have in the electoral processes in the country, Nigeria, and it's not just now. So what is being fought today is not a result of just the National Assembly saying they want to have, should we say, both transmission methods of the manual and then the electronic. So it is not just about now. It's a system failure that everybody's trying to fight against. Now, it's getting more interesting because there's a sect that says that you can have one, because many countries, if you check around Africa as well, and even some developed nations, they still fall back sometimes on some other. So that's one of the the premises of some people saying, okay, that's what we're saying. It's okay to have this. We can have this because we are not there yet. Telcos, like you mentioned, said, oh yes, I mean, we can do this. Others have even said, even if telcos cannot promise you, there are other private organizations that can help you ensure that you have that electronic transmission almost across all states. It might not be possible for every of the states, because I've also been in elections where it was quite a big deal to even put out just a single bar of the network bandwidth on your phone or any other device. But it's not impossible that we can use this. So I just want to start by saying that there's been different arguments about all of these conversations, and I think one of it that I would like to mention is about trust, really. Trust. Because the biggest debate now is not just about technology, it's about public trust in Nigeria's electoral credibility. And the approval of electronic transmission is widely seen as a reform step, but also retaining manual introduces concerns about potential manipulation. So if you say that we want to use electronic transmission, you can't absolutely say that is all that it requires, that so that malpractice will not happen. There can still be some way, but it will reduce that to a very large extent. So if you have it to say, this is what we are depending on, because a lot of people will go into that election to say, we are not even using electronic transmission. What we are doing is manual. The way we've been doing it is the way we should do. And I think I keep saying that it's not the strongest of animals that survive, but the one that is most responsive to change. And we need to really change. If there's technology across the world, if there is innovation, why not just adopt innovation? But like I said, it's largely not about innovation. It's about trust in the electoral system. And maybe just to mention too, that one of the strong democratic highlights of this is that some lawmakers disagree, while others, agreed. So there seems to be, even there was a rounding session at the Senate House yesterday, and then you could see Abaribe and a host of others. It was, I don't want to mention some of the things, but it was more like it was uncoordinated. They were fighting. Well, it's understandable. We need to fight for this cause because it's the right cause, right? Nigerians are saying, let's have electronic transmission, and that's okay, and that suffices. They say, but the Senate is saying, okay, for want of some things, for lack of it, and maybe for the presence of others, we might not be able to use this. So there's been that question that who is really at the what do we say now? Who is at the end of this? Who is calling the shots in this? Some have said it's this particular administration, the incumbent administration of President Tinubu, the APC. Others have said, oh, it's not the APC alone. Some other persons are interested in having both methods, so they can also find a way to do one or two. But largely, I just would like to get also the point, or I pray that the Senate will be able to get us to a point where we would be able to come to the conclusion that if Nigerians really want this, why not give it to them? If you are stating that there are concerns about the fact that some places might have errors, Yes, we understand that, but also much more importantly, tell the people how that is going. Because if telecoms have come to say, and some other persons have said it's possible to have transmission 100%. I've seen different comments on that to say it's possible almost everywhere in the country. So tell us something more. We don't just want to get the information that, oh, we want to use it too because of a network issue that we are envisaging, or there's a premonition that something bad will happen in some places. That's not exactly what's supposed to be communicated. What's supposed to be communicated is that, is it possible to have electronic transmission? Ask the experts. I think that's one of the things that I'm not sure they did before they made up this story. Because if you come to the house, they should have, they invite people, experts, right, to come tell them they have committees set up for all of this. Is it possible that we have this? Yes. What could be the militating factor against this? This. How can we tackle this? So I think one of the things we should now start thinking is to build systems instead of just innovation, one-time innovation. Because I remember before Beavers, there was another way of collecting data, or checking people's PVC, and now Beavers came, and then so it's just the same narrative that we should embrace technology, we should embrace innovation, we should embrace progress. If there's progress, we should use it. Why not use something when it's really accessible, when it's affordable in the country? I was trying to check how much was, was requested by the INEC for this election. I saw it was in the tune of millions and millions and millions. It was a lot of money.
Billions of naira.
Billions, right? I mean, it's a lot to even think about that we're having millions spent. What are we spending on? It should be on technology, right? It should be on innovation. It should be on making it better. I mean, with the antecedents have not been favorable, especially, we know, if you have been in Nigeria for quite a while, you have understood the trajectory, the story, the narrative. It's almost the same. But can we have it better now? That's exactly what a lot of people are questioning. Because if at first, when the Senate came out to say, oh, so we are not just using what we are using to, and then people now came, they said, oh, so let's reconvene, and then reconvened, and then it's still the same narrative. What exactly have we been debating? It was a rowdy session at the Senate House yesterday. Okay, that's fine, but let it come to a point where some have even alleged that it's the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, that is the ringleader behind not having one system of transmission, the electronic transmission. Some have said that is I think a lot of people even said that if you, like Kenneth Okonkwo said as well, that if this does not pass in the country, then they should be held responsible. In fact, they even made a bold claim that they should get him out of the system, and that's Senator Godswill Akpabio, to say Akpabio is the one that's trying to make things difficult. It's not as if this thing is difficult, we can do it. But I'm just hoping that we get to the end of this and get it better.
Are we to say the other senators do not have a mind of their own? Because, it is very easy to say that, Akpabio is a ringleader in all of this. But what happens to the other senators who keep saying, yes, let's pass both electronic transmission and manual transmission? And then speaking about electoral fraud, really, I've asked this question before that, 3 years after the last election, what is INEC doing? Because if anything, let's not even talk about national election now. If you start a project, and then if you do a project maybe every 2 years now, and then you have the first project, and then there were some lapses, the best thing to do is to look at what caused those lapses, and look for a way to fix the gap and close up the gap, and then fix the loophole. So I really don't understand what INEC is doing with that huge amount of money that they get for election. And then away from that also, Akpabio did not comment on whether the 2027 presidential election date would shift from February 20 to January 13. Why? Because some Muslims have complained bitterly online to say that this will clash with Ramadan. You can't expect us to go and join queues, when we are fasting. We won't do that. And then I remember in the early 2000s rather, there was something similar that happened, and the people said, okay, let's shift it because of Ramadan. But then I saw a post yesterday where a popular prophet, Prophet Sambololo, said that, okay, if we actually allow, election to run during Ramadan, maybe it might reduce, electoral fraud. Because some persons, because of the fasting, they might feel, okay, I'm fasting, I can't do this, I can't do that. Only month, yeah. And then some persons were saying, no, really, we cannot really bank on that, because people will do what they wanted to do regardless. So it's something to look at the end of the day, to say that should we change the election days because of Ramadan, or should we just flow with that? So it's another issue on ground now, and then they are yet to speak on that. We are still battling with electronic and manual. And I think the House of Representatives, theirs is even a little bit different from that of the Senate. Yeah. What they passed is, okay, electronic transmission should run simultaneously with manual transmission. But then if you check that of the Senate, is a little bit different. But then at the end of the day, it's boils down to the same thing, that Nigerians are saying we don't want that, and we are going to continue to support it. As a matter of fact, if you fire tear gas, next day, 2 days later, we are still going to protest. We are still going to fight against it. So it is really a problem. And at the end of the day, I don't know why the Senate and of course the House of Representatives will not allow INEC to have a say on this matter, to say, okay, really, because even telcos, like I mentioned earlier, they said areas that cannot afford to function with 3G will function with 2G. And of course, I've listened to even analysts, popular analysts online, they have said that, okay, really, there are some places whereby you cannot even use your phone. There are some places whereby you cannot use, normal POS, the terminal. So that's part of the argument to say that's the reason why we are calling for both manual and electoral transmission. One last point before I go. See, past administrations in this country, there are certain things that have come out to tell us this thing is not possible. It's not because we don't have money to fund it, but it's not possible. But these same things, these same issues that they have come out to say it's not possible, we are seeing private individuals make it possible. Talk about, all this, electricity in this, federal universities. How are the private universities doing it? I can't begin to mention quite a number, to you this morning. Apart from electricity, there are other things that, the government, have come out to tell us, okay, we cannot do this for now. Let's manage what we have. Can we not grow, really? Can we not grow? If at all it's not going to work, can we give it a try? Because if the people are not satisfied with whatever it is that the Senate and the House of Rep is planning to pass, it's a problem. And then don't forget, if they eventually pass this proviso that allows for electronic and manual, I don't want to sound pessimistic right now. I don't know how long this protest, will last. I don't know if the number of persons that came out to vote in 2023, if it's going to reduce or go, because about 35% of the Nigerian population voted for the last election. That's very poor. About 35% of the nation. And then we have a lot of persons who came out to collect their PVC. So what should we expect in this? The election is so close to us because a lot of us, as they say, it's too far. We don't have time anymore. About a year to the election.
To the elections. Really. Okay, so I think I will just harp on what you've said a bit, that if citizens do not trust how their leaders emerge, then governance legitimacy becomes fragile. So it's a story that continues. It's a story that would have a sequel, because if you say the narrative is we want both manual and electronic transmission, and then citizens don't trust this, they then will question whoever becomes their president again to say, after all, you entered through the back door. It's not as if you came in because we wanted to vote you. It was because you wanted to do whatever you want. And I mean, I think it's high time. Some have called the president to probably speak to whoever is in charge of this. I don't want to say ringleader, but whoever is in charge to say, guys, let's consider this, because this would leak. How do we put this best now? Because it will question the fact that this administration is trying to do something wrong, and they're trying to cover up for something they are about to do. Because there's been claims of people saying, we will promise you 1 million votes in this place, we promise you over 500,000 votes. So there seems to be some quarters. In fact, the FCT minister, Yesom Wike, saying that, of course, he's going to support Tinubu until they win. Like
he also said, any candidates, I'm speaking about the FCT polls now, if you don't support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you are going to lose. So
there's a body language that is reflecting that whether or not you guys vote for us, we would rig this election. Whatever it takes will still remain in this present administration. 2027 will still be the presidency, will still hold the president, I mean the APC now. So there's been claims from different, in fact, I saw you circular yesterday from the PDP, People's Democratic Party faction, saying that they want just electronic transmission because they think this administration is trying to use that to get themselves back into power come 2027. So there's been a lot of claims. So I'm saying, or a lot of people are now saying, if the president wants to really be fair, he probably should come out to say, I mean, he also supports that. If the president says he's giving assent to electronic transmission, maybe that will lessen the pressure. Happening. It might not happen, but I'm saying it can lessen the case of allegations against this administration to say they are the ones fueling this thing. They want it to be loud so that they can use one way or the other. But if you are sure that you have all of the people voting for you, or you've even done your mathematics and all of those maneuvering in politics, then you should not be scared that they should use.
And then finally on this one, before we leave, in a popular university in this country, they had their SUG election and it was 100% electronic. But you know what happened? The shocking part is after the election, students staged a protest to say it was rigged. It was 100% election.
And that's why we talk about the structural system damage. It's a structural damage. It's a systemic failure. So they are not. It's not even the process. It's the whole antecedent that is coming in their mind that this thing they don't regam. Nobody say they regam. You are not sure they did, but because they did before,
I can't prove it.
You can't.
But I know.
That kind of thing.
It's a lot to undo. Good luck
Absolutely.
to Nigerians. We're also Nigerians, really. Speaking about the next election. But at the end of the day, please let this not deter you from going out to cast your vote.
Very important.
Speaking about next year.